Hey guys, it's Casey and welcome to Reviewsday Tuesday, the day where I talk about books that I've recently read and liked and hopefully recommend some books for those of you who like to read. Today's pick is particularly fortuitous because it was written by the person who coined the term Reviewsday Tuesday, Hank Green. That's right, today I'm reviewing An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. For those of you who've been on my channel for a while or who know me in real life, you'll know that I'm a big fan of the Vlogbrothers, which is a YouTube channel run by John Green, the author of The Fault in Our Stars and a bunch of other New York Times bestselling novels, and Hank Green, his brother, who was previously the science guy. He's the founder and CEO of the company Complexly, I think, which is a course that produces educational content, including SciShow and Crash Course, which of course John Green is also involved in. But this is Hank Green's debut novel, which is an adult sci-fi. It's not quite young adult. It's like new adult sci-fi, contemporary, hard to categorize kind of genre. Can we just take a minute to talk about this cover because it is absolutely stunning. The geometric pattern and the simplicity of it is, while reminiscent of covers like The Fault in Our Stars, which of course are also stunning, so unique and just like look at this. This is so gorgeous. This one's watching you. Okay, so quick rundown of what the plot is because it is very complicated and hard to describe, but also very easy to follow once you're actually reading the book. The protagonist, April May, is a 23-year-old recent art school grad who's working at a startup and is living in New York, and she leaves the office at 3 a.m. and discovers what she thinks is a gigantic art installation of a huge 10-foot tall metal robot standing outside Chipotle in the middle of New York City. She calls her best friend Andy down to make a YouTube video where she pretends to interview it, and her video goes viral because it turns out that these robots, which she named Carl when she was pretending to interview it, have appeared in 64 other cities around the world, and she was the first person to make a public statement about it, even through her jokey kind of YouTube video, and she becomes an overnight celebrity and internet sensation, and she wakes up to now being a household name. This book is a sci-fi because for the most part it's kind of this mystery about where did the Carls come from? What are they made of? What did they want? Are they aliens? And April May has found herself in the middle of all of these crazy conspiracy theories, and the world is looking to her to make a statement about what this is. People are thinking maybe she's an alien, she's in cahoots with the government, maybe it's a marketing ploy. Basically, she's all over TV suddenly, and everyone wants a piece of her. The book is really a meditation on what internet celebrity looks like in the 21st century and what it means to be so public a figure that you no longer have a private life. Like, you are this persona that you project to the world. The world is constantly reading your tweets and watching your videos and knows everything about you, and how overwhelming that must be. It's really easy to read this book as a little bit of an allegory for what Hank and John Green must have gone through when they kind of rose to stardom through Vlogbrothers and created this massive community, because April also forms her own online community around what's called The Dream, which is a series of puzzles that ostentatiously stem from this robot Carl and must be solved collectively by humanity for some reason. I'm not gonna spoil the ending. I have a lot of thoughts about this book. Basically, the book lives up to its name. It's absolutely remarkable. It is a wonderful first novel with a complex plot, deep, emotionally connecting characters, and just an engaging story that pulls you through the whole time. Like, you don't want to put this book down. It's not one of those I have to get to the next page kind of books where you're like skipping things, but it's more like I have to read this really carefully. I want to know what happens. The mystery is really engaging. I went into reading this book almost entirely spoiler-free, which is amazing because it's been out for a while. But one of the things I was most startled by and most exciting to me as someone who writes bisexual books for bisexual readers about bisexual people is that the main character of this book, April May, is bisexual and willing to say that, which in a New York Times best-selling book is unheard of. The book even addresses biphobia when April May's agent tells her that she can sell her better if she pretends to be a lesbian because she has a girlfriend, and just kind of drops the whole bisexual thing, which, not to be too spoilery, but comes back to bite April in the butt when she's accused of being fake because she didn't publicly announce her bisexuality. There's also just some stigma around bisexuality, but the character is very openly and avidly bisexual and willing to say that, even though she doesn't date people of multiple genders in the text. The book really presents an intimate view of what the social internet looks like right now. You know, how various platforms are used, how they're not used, how people would react to certain kinds of content being made, how that content gets made and uploaded, and offers an intimate view of what happens when fame goes too far and when burnout happens, because it is exhausting to be in the public light all the time, being forced to make all of these decisions for people. And April finds herself kind of accidentally in the middle of a huge online community, but also this conspiracy and puzzle that she doesn't really feel equipped to handle. And while a lot of people in their reviews have been saying that they don't like April because she's unlikable, she gets really full of herself, and there are moments in the text where you just want to smack her because she self-sabotages so many relationships in her life. It makes sense why she is the way she is, and she's very relatable because she makes mistakes. There's a level of authenticity in this book that I think is really rare of the genre, and it makes you care about the characters and what they're going through, while also presenting this really unusual situation and a really unique plot that I think I haven't seen done before in any way, shape, or form. Like, this is not a variation on any of the basic plot tropes that I can think of, and I read a lot of sci-fi and like young adult novels, although this does kind of not fall within the young adult genre. That's what John Green writes, so people are obviously going to be comparing this book to that kind of literature. But I think that it was well written, it has a really authentic voice, and it really asks you to consider deep philosophical questions about what it means to be human and what it means to be a collaborative person and part of something greater than yourself, and also asks us to remember that celebrities are humans and that they have lives outside of YouTube or Twitter or wherever they're being presented. I'm really excited for the second book because this book definitely ends on a cliffhanger, which I know was really unexpected for some people, and they weren't expecting this to not be a standalone, especially the way it starts off as being like, this is the whole story. It kind of ends on a little bit of a jolt, and I'm really excited to see where Hank goes with this in a sequel, or if he turns it into a series. I don't know how conducive this kind of cover is to the making of a series, because I don't really see where they could go with this. I guess they could just do like the same kind of pattern in different colors or something to make it match, but it doesn't really seem like a series cover. They might make new editions when they publish the second book, because this does kind of look like a standalone book cover, but definitely is worth a read, especially if you are into sci-fi without it being too science heavy. All the science stuff is explained really well and really colloquially, so that someone who's, you know, of average science literacy can really get into it and understand what's happening without feeling lost, which can happen with some really hard sci-fi. This book is really contemporary and topical and deals with some really hard-pressing issues, like things like biphobia and social media and what happens when you tweet your whole life and then someone comes after you. The dangers of being online, but also the thrills and the joys and the communities that can be formed when you're online. I'm trying to keep this review as short and sweet as possible because I know I can go on and on and on about books that I like, but I really recommend this one, and I think it was a fantastic debut novel, and I feel oddly proud to have been part of the Nerdfighter community. Not that I don't always feel proud to be a Nerdfighter, but the community that Hank and John Green have built through their internet platform does really good things in the world and is now producing amazing sci-fi. So even if you didn't like John Green's books, give Hank a chance, because this is very, very different from the kind of stuff his brother writes, and much more in line with his online brand, I guess, which is very science literate, very contemporary, very philosophical. And I guess I'll just end by reading one of my favorite quotations from the book. Without revealing any spoilers, just know that this moment happens at a moment of very high tension in the plot, possibly the climax. I drop back into my presenting voice, strong and bold, even though it hurts. As I was saying, even on the most terrible of days, even when the worst of us are all we can think of, I am proud to be a human. Thanks guys, I'll see you next week. If you'd like to watch more of my Reviewsday Tuesday videos, check out my playlist. If you want to hear me talk about things that aren't books, check out this playlist of my vlogs. And as always, subscribe. I never look at the camera. I'm so sorry.